Hello everyone, welcome back to our scenario-based demos series. Thank you for keeping up with us. My name is Walid Al-Marsi, and today we have session number 3, and we will talk about compliance and compliance manager. So let's get started. For today's agenda, we will go very quickly on the last episode content. Then we will move on talking about the security versus compliance overview. And then we will go very quickly over the compliance management challenges that we see customers facing every day. And then we will have a very quick overview on Microsoft 365 Compliance Manager, followed by a quick technical demo over the Compliance Manager portal. In the last episode, we went over the data discovery and risk analysis topic, why it's important, why do we need to perform it as a first step. We also explored our SBD tenant and we saw what data types that we have and what are the associated risks with them. Also, we went over the additional data types that we know that we need to secure. We gave an example on how to perform a data risk assessment or data breach risk assessment analysis. We've also gone through a very basic classification taxonomy based on the discovered data, and we created a content taxonomy as well as a container taxonomy. And then Brendan took us through the information retention records management topic. So let's talk about the difference between the security practice and the compliance policy. So before we start talking about Microsoft Compliance Manager, we need to talk about compliance. And we thought that the best way to talk about compliance is to compare it to something that everybody is familiar with, which is security or security practice. We have also noticed that many IT professionals sometimes mix both terms and sometimes use them interchangeably. So let's go over some important definitions and differences to clear out any potential confusion people might have between security and compliance that we usually hear in the field dealing with customers on that front. And to do that, let's go over the following illustrated scenario to highlight the differences. So let's say that we have someone, well, for this example, let's call him Mecca, who bought an old car and he wanted to register the car in the Vehicle Registration Authority so he can drive it. Mecca hired an assessor, and in that case, let's call him Shashank, who is experienced in getting car to pass the registration assessment. To simplify, Shashank identified 2 problems with the car, which are, number 1, the tires are constantly leaking air and deflating. Number 2, the car remote key battery died and it doesn't function 90% of the time. To pass the assessment, Shashank advised was, for the tires issue, he recommends Mecca won't pass the assessment and might result in fatal accident if it's not remediated. Also, it's very risky for Mecca's life and other life if this is not fixed. Shashank then advised that all punctures in the tires must be fixed to stop the air leakage. And this is a top priority issue. For the car remote key battery issue, Shashank advises that this is a low priority issue as the physical key works as expected to lock and unlock the car. Also, the Vehicle Registration Authority is not really concerned about the remote keys that much as it won't lead to any road accidents or risk to other people's lives. Shashank mentioned that if Mecca sticks to the advice, he will pass the assessment and the registration will be valid for another 2 years, where he doesn't have to go through another inspection till the next check. However, if Mecca didn't follow the recommendations, the consequences will include failing the registration assessment as the car will not be compliant with the Vehicle Registration Authority standards. He may risk his own life as well as other people's lives, Other consequences would include paying higher insurance, paying compensation if he is at fault in an accident, as well as losing his driver license. Mecca then hired an experienced mechanic, let's call him Walid for now, to assess the car condition further because Mecca wanted to protect his investment and to ensure that any potential risks are managed to the best he could. Walid's advice is as the following. The tire puncture recommendation from Shashank was good, but it's not enough. Mecca will need to replace the air valve as well on the tire itself, as it has an old one and might cause further air leakage. This way, we have higher chances to protect the tire from air leakage compared to just fix the tire puncture. For the remote key issue, it must be replaced. This is to protect Maca's investment and to enhance the safety of the car against theft. Also, having a working remote key would be easier to lock and unlock the car without having to physically be next to it. And it makes more sense from the functional wise. Walid assured Maca that if he followed the given advice, not only Maca would pass the assessment, but also he will be able to protect his investment, which is the car in this case, and reduce his car insurance cost. However, if Maca didn't follow the recommendations from Walid, the consequences will include all the consequences mentioned by Shashank, plus the potential loss of investment and reduced functionality. Now, believe it or not, this is exactly what the security practice and compliance policy are. Let's link this scenario back to the security and compliance language. The car in this scenario represents the digital assets that you own and need to protect. In other words, it represents information in this context. They could be emails or documents that contain sensitive information. The issues identified by the assessors are the threat events that may cause a loss of confidentiality, integrity, or availability of information or data. And we have discussed the threat events in detail in episode number 2. If you haven't watched it, please go back and watch it. The threat event could be anything from unlabeled or unencrypted information sitting in your environment to a DLP solution that is misconfigured or even turned off. Those could lead to data compromise. And obviously, the Vehicle Registration Authority is the regulatory body, which could be like HIPAA, PCI, DSS, NIST, etc., which dictates the standards that the organization must meet to comply with the framework. For the assessment outcome and the recommended actions to meet the authority standard, this is called compliance policy. This could contain guidance or requirements on how information should be protected or governed. Things like if sensitive information should be labeled or not, or having a DLP solution in place or not. So basically, the compliance policy is practiced to satisfy external requirements. It's also driven by business needs rather than technical needs. And it's usually completed when the third party is satisfied. For the other advanced assessment outcome, this is the security practice. As we noticed, it was driven by the need of the car owner to protect his investment. So in very simple terms, security is the practice of implementing effective technical controls to protect digital assets from damage or theft. When we mention security, we often refer to technical controls or systems. So it focuses on technology. It is practiced for its own sake, not to satisfy any third party's requirement. So let's summarize this topic. Both security and compliance have the same objective, which is reducing risk. However, the teams managing both might have different responsibilities. For example, compliance team would focus on documentation, where security team won't be that interested in it. Adhering to the compliance policy requirements only, we also call that the checkbox approach, is not enough. This approach focuses on performing only the absolute minimum required in order to just meet the standards. Also, having the most agile and cutting-edge security defenses and systems in place does not mean you are compliant. So security and compliance go hand in hand. In fact, they complement each other in areas where one may fall short. Look at it this way. Compliance gives you a very good baseline for information security strategy to start with. Then security will build on that baseline to boost your security posture. Now, hope that this example made sense. And now we can clearly differentiate between security and compliance. Let's move on to the next section. Now we know what compliance is. Let's see what are the main challenges that come with compliance management. The first challenge is it's a rapidly evolving landscape. In average, there are 220 updates per day from 1,000 regulatory bodies. We have heard from multiple research showing that the rapidly changing requirements is the biggest challenge compliance personas are facing today. As a result, compliance teams are living in the state of reaction. The second challenge is a really point-in-time assessment. Many companies rely on manual and point-in-time assessments, like auditing, which can quickly go out of date and pose potential risks between assessments. Companies are looking for ways to integrate across systems better and possibilities of creating near real-time assessment to control risks caused by digital assets. The third challenge that we have is about siloed knowledge. Many of global risk management executives state that their ability to forecast critical risks will be more difficult in 3 years. The leading obstacle to forecasting critical risk noted by these executives is the continued lack of cross-organization collaboration. The collaboration challenge often comes from siloed knowledge each team has about IT risk management. Usually, IT and security admins know the technology solution well, but find regulations too complicated to understand. And vice versa, compliance and privacy teams know the regulations very well, but are not experts in solutions that can help to meet the requirements. The fourth and the last challenge that we're going to talk about today is about complexity across IT environments. ITDMs struggle with their learning all the solutions and configurations to minimize IT compliance risks, especially for companies with hundreds of vendors. They want simplistic step-by-step guidance on how to make the tools work for their industry and their regulations. Now we've gone through the challenges. Let's talk briefly on how Microsoft 365 Compliance Manager can help addressing those challenges. We have published a webinar session recently about Compliance Manager, as well as good documentations. We will share some links at the end of this slide, so please ensure that you go through them to learn more about Compliance Manager. Going into the details is out of scope of this SBD session. Compliance Manager provides access to an assessment library of over 325 plus assessment templates. All the assessments receive updates regularly, and the updates become available and published by their respective authority. This takes care of the issue with keeping up to date with the frequent regulation changes and updates. Also, don't forget that you can create custom assessments, depends on your need. With the built-in automation, Compliance Manager helps you keep up to date with evolving compliance landscape and helps you scale your compliance program across global, industrial, and regional regulations and standards. Compliance Manager also provides easy onboarding and step-by-step control implementation guidance to help organizations know which specific actions they can take to meet their compliance requirements. For more information, you can start familiarizing yourself with Compliance Manager by going to the Get Started link, which is aka.ms/compliance manager. Also ensure that you watch the recent webinar that our team has conducted by visiting our page on aka.ms/mipsy/webinars. With that said, I will hand it over to my colleague, Shashank, to walk us through the demo about Compliance Manager, and then I will talk to you again.
Hello and welcome to the scenario-based demo. My name is Shashank Kumar and I'm a part of the Compliance Customer Acceleration team. I hope that you have enjoyed our previous two episodes. For this session, I would just build on the fantastic context laid by Waleed for Compliance Manager. In the next 10 to 12 minutes, I will take you through a Compliance Manager demo. We will look at how the Compliance Manager tool looks like and what are the certain use cases, features, and functionalities it allows you to use. Now, on to the demo. As you land on the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, you will find Compliance Manager right at the home page itself. This is because Compliance Manager is envisioned to be the single common thread which ties up your security and compliance journey, and through a compliance score, which is a composite of all different solutions that you are using, give you a snapshot right when you start your journey at the Compliance Center. But before we delve deeper into what makes this a score and how Compliance Manager acts as a tool, I want to spend some time telling you about another important innovation that we have added and are consistently adding to. This is data connectors. As you are aware, more and more customers today are discovering a lot of data that they are creating across a lot of third-party solutions, which makes it at times tough to govern the data that lies outside of Microsoft 365 systems. What we have done is we have created a one-time plumbing exercise and we call them data connectors. Once you have configured this plumbing once, you are able to see the flow of data from all these third-party systems into the single pane of compliance solution that our compliance center provides to you. You can use these data across a variety of solutions, and in some of the subsequent sessions, we will take you through the data connectors in detail. Going back to the home page, if you go to Compliance Manager as a solution, you land at an overview page which gives you a score. This score is a composite of all the regulatory actions that you have taken. And the denominator of this score is all the regulatory related and compliance related actions on security and compliance solutions that you need to have taken. We will again see a detailed breakup of it in some time. But going back to the example of the medical research company, the fictitious company that we are talking about, I would also like to start with a disclaimer that the scenarios that we are creating are purely for your understanding and they are not actual regulatory guidance that applies to any specific company outside this example that we have crafted purely to communicate our demo. So taking the example of the medical research company, if you are aware, in the previous episode, it was mentioned that they have 5 regulatory requirements, like 5 regulations they need to comply with. They were ISO 27001, CCPA, HIPAA, PCI DSS, and NIST SP 853. So let's focus on one, say, for example, HIPAA. If you are this fictitious company and you want to improve your score and you want to include a HIPAA filter from an assessment perspective, here is how you proceed. If you see, the overview is the tab where it gives you the basic improvement requirements that you have and how it translates to a score for you right at the onset. If you delve deeper, you can go and look at all the composite improvement actions across the gamut of regulations and compliances that you want. You can filter these out basis your requirements and your needs. The third tab gives you how you are doing vis-a-vis different solutions that are a part of Microsoft 365 E5 security and compliance solutions. What is your current score contribution from all of these solutions? What are the potential score increasing opportunities that is still on the table? And it gives you a very clear category and regulations view also of this. Coming to assessments, this is the place where you see your existing assessments and how you are progressing against it. And this is where, for the fictitious medical research company, we will add assessment. Once you click on add assessment, you go to the assessment creation flow. At the first step of this flow, the tool prompts you to select a template. You can select templates from either included or premium templates. The difference here is all the included templates come free as a part of your E5 license. But if you want to add more regulatory viewpoint here, you can select from 329 different other premium templates here. As you can see, these templates cater to a wide host of solutions. They are state-wise, country-wise, industry-wise. I mean, you can pick and choose various solutions from here. The key point here is you might have to pay for these premium assessments if you want to use them. Here is another recent announcement. As of today itself, what we have announced is you don't really need an E5 license. As long as you are using any Microsoft 365 license, you can buy premium templates, and these premium templates will function for you. They don't depend on E5 license for you to work. Coming to the medical research company that we were talking about, let's look if the HIPAA regulatory requirement is covered here. So you can search for it here, and as you can see, it is available. The company can select HIPAA here, save, and start on this path. After you have selected, the tool provides you further details about the solution, including metadata like when it was last modified, when created. All you need to do is to go create this assessment by giving it a name. So for this, we will call it HIPAA. As you are aware, HIPAA is one of the regulations that is very core to medical research community. You can assign it an assessment group depending on the assessment groups that you have created to sort out your compliance team. After having done that, you just click next and bingo, within 3 clicks, you have created the assessment. You click on done and you go back. And as you create this assessment, it takes you to the assessment homepage where it shows you the progress related. We will come back here. First, let's go back to Compliance Manager and see on the overview page how it has changed our score. Now you can see that HIPAA and high-tech has become a part of your filter. So if you apply it, you will see the composite score now. As you land on the assessment homepage, it shows you a very clear visual representation of how you are progressing with this assessment. As you can see, the progress of this assessment is 50%. We will show you soon how it impacts your composite score so that you have a reference point to the Compliance Manager overall score. As you know, this will change as you take improvement actions according to solutions. But here to quickly take you through the journey with HIPAA regulation. At the top, it shows you the overall assessment progress. As you scroll down, you see the key improvement actions that pop up. These are sorted by impact, and the highest impact actions are shown you at the top here. As you go down, it shows you the control status, as in how many controls are in progress, how many controls are failed, how many controls are selected to be out of scope, and how many are passed. If you go to improvement actions here from the top tab, you will see a list of actions that medical research company in our fictitious example needs to take in order to meet the HIPAA compliance. As you can see, apply sensitivity label to protect electronic personal health records is one of the topmost score impacting things that it is yet to do. If you click on this improvement action, it takes you to a summary page. At this summary page, we start by providing you an overview of the improvement action, including whether this has been implemented, tested, and what's the point achieved through this. As in our case, this medical research company, the compliance team of it lands here. If they find that this action has not been taken and they find out that they need to take it, especially pertaining to HIPAA, what they can start it with is by assigning it to someone. As you know, organizations have different compliance teams and different teams that take care of the solutions related to, say, a data loss prevention, information security, stuff like that. So depending on the right stakeholder, you can assign this action to the right stakeholder. As you click assign here, it triggers a workflow. It sends an email notification to the user, and within that email notification, the user will get instructions how to proceed further. They click a link and land here and take action. Once the implementation action has been taken, the tool will provide you the option to select implemented. select implementation date, because all these details are important from a regulatory perspective. As you can see, this tool gives you an overview of how to implement the improvement action and how to use a Microsoft solution to implement. Not only that, it also provides you an ability to launch the solution right from within this tab itself. As you click on launch now, you would see that the tool lands you at information protection page of the compliance center. We will come to this page very soon in our next demo sessions. Going back to the HIPAA compliance, if you go back and look at other improvement actions, you will also find that a lot of these actions depend on other Microsoft solutions. As you see, the tool itself, the compliance manager, gives you a fair perspective of what are the solutions that you will need to invoke in order to meet your regulatory requirements. And this covers a whole host of security, compliance, and other solutions as a part of Microsoft 365. Going back to compliance manager, I want to look at your compliance score. This currently is at 59%. In our subsequent sections, you will see improvement actions being taken, and then you will see how this baseline moves. Now, for the sake of this demo, I also want to show you how we are proceeding on the journey with automation. As you can see, from the settings tab, you can go to the automation page. As of now, this is turned on for all improvement actions. So all improvement actions, and currently we have about 15 of them, where Microsoft 365 runs a continuous assessments, and these are monitored continuously and updated accordingly. What the tool also provides you with is an ability to turn it on per improvement action. There are certain improvement actions that you might not want to automate. So you can choose and you can select improvement actions that you want to be automatic. As you can see, this is a list that is still in progress, because with time you will find more and more actions being automated. And we have started with the most common and most frequent Microsoft 365 security solutions. You will see more and more improvement actions automated from our compliance stable, and over a period of time, you will perhaps see more third-party solutions land up here as well. If we go back to Compliance Manager, this is your assessments tab, which gives you assessment progress. For the sake of this medical research company, HIPAA has started and they have made a 50% progress with it. The data protection baseline, the progress is at 59%. Once you go to overview, this tool provides you a filter capability to select either via regulation to see your overall score, or to see it via solutions, where you can have a solution specific view of where you stand overall and then look at improvement actions for them. It also provides you the ability to parse the view depending on the action type or groups or the categories of actions. As you can see, the fictitious medical company that we were talking about had 5 regulatory requirements from a compliance management perspective. In this demo, you can see that they have all these 5 requirements met through our assessment templates, and they have configured audits pertaining to those assessments already in their terminal. Over the course of next episodes, you will see the company undertake more scenario-based actions which will impact this score. But for now, as they have set these up, let's see how it has impacted their overall score. Evidently, the score has reduced, because with more and more assessments configured, they have increased the denominator, and they have not yet taken assessment actions to increase the numerator yet. You can also see that Microsoft has already taken certain actions on their behalf, which has largely contributed to their score so far. With this, we come to an end of this demo. I hope you have got some value out of it. Now, back to Waleed to take you further with this scenario. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Shashank. Now, before we close out this episode, let's quickly go over the SBD requirements one more time to see if we have any updates and whether we managed to address any of the listed requirements. The main requirement that we managed to address in this episode is ensure internal information security and compliance controls are assessed regularly and reflect industry recommended practices, and revise and implement those controls in a timely manner requirement. As now we know what regulations apply to our organization and what are their requirements, we can now track, action, and update those action items as we implement them. We will also have a compliance manager overview after each topic. For example, when we are done configuring DEP policies to protect against data leakage, we will go back to compliance manager and mark the DLP related action items as completed for the number of the assessment we just added with Shashank in the demo earlier. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.
Welcome back! Thank you for watching so far, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to watch our next videos in this great scenario-based demo video series that we prepared just for you. Also, make sure to check out our one-stop shop resource page that we prepared just for you that contains all our resources from the MIP CXE team. That's at aka.ms/MIPC/OSS. Thank you, and see you on our next videos.